they're selling something they don't own. It's like you don't own a house down the street, but you're going to try to sell it. Don't worry, I'm going to buy it. I'll buy it someday, but you're going to have to buy it for me first. Huh?
All right, guys, thanks for joining us on Elation Podcast today, where we enjoy exhilarating euphoria through creation and collaboration. Today, we are here with the original Howlin Wolf, Mr. Howie Kaplan. How are you?
How are you doing today? Thanks very much for having me.
It's good to have you howl on this podcast today. I'm glad to have you.
Well, thank you very much for having me come out.
You are a staple here in New Orleans, man. It's an amazing place, and I know you've done a lot more things, but we all love the Howlin Wolf, so I just wanted to start with that. But let's talk a little bit about where you're from and the origin story, and then how you got here, and we'll go from all that.
Well, I moved to New Orleans back in 1997. So another 25 years or so, I'll be considered a local. I bought a bar called Rockenbach off the I-10 Service Road. It's called Twist of Lime now.
Okay.
And we started doing bands. It was a dart bar. I didn't grow up here, so who knew that some guy that moved here from, grew up in South Florida, moved here from Colorado with roots kind of all over the place, would buy a neighborhood bar in Metairie. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but I showed up every day. We made a bunch of friends and started doing bands.
Right.
And so 2000 comes along. There's a news article Keith Spiro wrote in the Times-Picayune about the Howlin Wolf going up for sale. So I met with Jack Gretsch. We had met a few times before.
Okay.
And I went to, 15-minute how you doing conversation turned into a 3 or 4 hour conversation.
Right.
And we started the process that had me taking over the Wolf in October 1st of 2000.
Wow.
So we're coming up on our 25th anniversary.
That's awesome.
Or my 25th anniversary.
That's awesome.
It's been around since 88. And so that began the journey that's culminated over the last 25 years and all the different things that we've done.
That's awesome. Well, so what part of South Florida?
I grew up in Plantation outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. All right. So I'm born and raised here, but when I was 16, I moved to West Palm.
Okay.
So wasn't too far away from you.
I used to go surfing in Jupiter.
Yep.
So
Okay. Yep.
Sebastian Inlet and all that. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
I know your neck of the woods well.
Yeah, my mom still lives on Singer Island, so we were actually just there last week.
It's nice out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there. Yeah, I know. But it's still not New Orleans, so. But
no.
What part of Colorado?
Denver, Colorado. So that was 92 to 97. I was one of the original Coors Field Rockies beer vendors.
Okay.
Probably still my favorite job of all time.
I bet.
Your office is a sold out show. I remember I vended every game. So it was, three preseason games and then 81 and never missed a game. Actually got hit in the head. They made me go home early and didn't want me coming back because I got hit by a foul ball. But I remember vending to like 20,000 people in the middle of a snowstorm because they were waiting for them to call the game.
Wow.
Like 20,000 people still showed up, still sat there drinking beer.
Drinking cold beer, yeah.
Like it's a very New Orleans kind of thing.
It is,
not drinking in the snow. Well, if you were here for the snowstorm,
we were definitely drinking in the snow for the snowstorm.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Moved here from there. The music is that's where I first started doing music. I worked for a company called Kevin Bergen Associates, KBA.
Okay.
And they were the marketing arm of Camel Cigarettes. They had a Camel cigarette program, and they gave money to venues to do shows.
Okay.
And so we did a bunch of shows with these venues, and that was kind of the beginning.
Well, so that was going to ask you, so like, where did music grab you? Because,
Well, strangely enough, in South Florida, I was a night manager for a record store in a mall.
Okay.
It's called Specs Music.
Okay.
And they had the very first ticketing platform. We'll probably talk about ticketing a few times because that's my passion right now.
Gotcha.
But they had what's called BAS, the Best Available Seating Service.
Okay.
And it was before Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster did not exist. There was Select a Seat, which was in like J.C. Penney or whatever, and then there was BAS that was in all these others. And we were one of the top outlets. We sold all these shows to the Sunrise Musical Theater and the Hollywood Sportatorium and the Orange Bowl, and so music's always been a thing. My brother worked at a place called Zebra Records when we lived in Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
And I remembered all the cool posters he brought home, and so the music thing just kind of kept going.
Yeah, music grabs you, man. It never lets go either.
And it becomes a part of your heart, and people I like the term soundtrack of your life because you go back to, when you were a kid and then
Oh,
as you're growing up
absolutely.
and how your musical taste change and
Oh,
evolve.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we were just actually having this conversation about the attachment to a memory that music used to have for you, and how the lack of that experience happens nowadays.
Yeah.
When I would go buy an album or buy a CD, or even buy a cassette tape, whatever it may be, you're attached to that moment in time. You take it home or wherever you go listen, and you spend that hour, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, of whatever length of that tape was, and you sit and you listen to the entirety of it, and you decide whether it was worth my $20 or my $50 or my $30 or whatever it is you spent on it.
Do you remember the first album you bought? I'm sorry. First, you were saying tape, so
yeah. Well, so cassette tapes were first for me. I want to say I know the first CD I bought. I can't remember the first tape I bought, but the first CD I bought was Warren G. Regulate. That was the very first CD I ever had.
Not a bad first one to have.
No, that was the very first CD I had. And I remember how excited I was when I got home to play it. But there are albums and moments of time that that you spend on that, and you can always go back to that moment. I can't tell you the last time I sat down and listened to a new artist's album and had that moment.
You're doing it. You just don't realize you're doing it. So I've got one of my new favorites is Khruangbin.
Okay.
I just like the music. We did Dick Dale from the time I bought the Wolf until the time he passed away. And actually, we're talking about having his son come through.
Right.
His son played with him towards the end, and now has his own great band. And so it's this weird kind of psychedelic surf rock, totally different. And I don't remember where I first started, but now I know it's something that I listen to. Same thing. I can go back to Band of Horses. I can go through a list of my, when I first got turned on to the Deftones and Chino.
Right.
And all, well, and then even coming back to when I first moved here, like my very first second line happened to be, strangely enough, Rebirth.
Okay, right.
And so, you sometimes just don't realize when those moments come. And that's where I think a place like the Howlin Wolf or a Tipitina's or a Joy or a Civic or, even in more particular, the smaller venues, the Maple Leafs and,
Well, yeah, those are where you get your memories.
But it's where you start.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of lost something during the pandemic where people aren't as into going to those rooms anymore.
Oh, we lost total person-to-person contact and the human experience.
Yep.
was had a wedge driven through it, and it actually is very scary to me how fragile that is. In a sense of like just the dynamics of how you change as a person when you're not around people.
Yep.
Or when you can't read them because you have something covered. It's scary a little bit.
Which is why the live music experience is more important now than it's ever
100%.
been. Especially
Agreed.
when you're carrying around on your phone literally the entire recorded history of music.
100%.
Well, you get it. You get it when you're there.
100%. Well, but it's also the only thing that's going to separate us from AI is live music.
Yep.
So
well, give it time.
Yeah. Well, holograms, we're here already, but I still think there's, just like you and I talking right now, like the AI program is going to be able to put people here to talk to each other, but there's still a human experience that has that there's a connection that won't happen with the computers.
Community.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that New Orleans does really, really well. Our culture bearers, our cultural economy,
right?
All those things that are so important to that experience. It's why people come here from all over the world. It's why people live here. It's why people engage on a daily, weekly basis. I mean, there's a festival every week.
Yeah.
There's a festival every day. There's a second line going down the street. It's a way to bring neighborhood. It's a way to share our culture. And I think New Orleans leads the way in that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And nobody creates a culture better than we do, in my opinion. We have an amazing culture. We keep it. We use it. The problem that I always find from music side of the culture is we tend to not turn it into business.
Well, it's funny you say that because there have been a few different things over the years. that I've been fortunate to be a part of. You've got GNO Inc. They did the Gnome Initiative, New Orleans Musical Economy.
Right.
And they actually kind of use me as an example of why there needs to be more investment into New Orleans and into the music and into the performance, into all the pieces of it. We managed the Revivalists for their first about 5 years. And right now their legal representation is in one city. Their booking's in another city. Their management's in another city.
Right.
Like all of these things are in different cities and none of them are New Orleans.
Right.
And so you've got some really great people doing some really great things, but until we all kind of get on the same page, and GNO Inc. They've got an incubator program right now that they're literally looking at things and investing in, getting the next big thing to come out. Personas out of Baton Rouge, that just got bought by Fender,
Yep.
and like that's homegrown. Like that's what Louisiana and New Orleans can do, because you literally are in the birthplace of all modern music.
Agreed, but we have to invest in the infrastructure, because we don't have label buildings, we don't have publicists, we don't have marketing companies, we don't have distribution companies, we don't have the structure that an artist truly needs to be able to compete with that global market.
And right now you can do that anywhere, but if you're gonna do it. I've actually got a new best friend that just moved here, and he's an artist manager. He's been in the business a while, and he was at C3 for quite a bit, and he's here now. Like this is where he's setting up shop. And there are a few people out there that are doing it, but we're not doing enough as a community to engage, incentivize. Most of them don't really want anything. They just want to be here.
Right.
And to give them more support, I think is one of the smarter things that could happen.
100%. Well, so let's talk about, first, let's just talk about Howlin Wolf for a little bit. What are some of your favorite shows you've done there?
Oh, God. It's funny. A lot of them are ones that you wouldn't think.
Yeah.
Arturo Sandoval. Literally, he's the Satchmo of Cuba.
Right.
One of the most insanely talented musicians that's ever been on the Howlin Wolf stage. He came for his piano album many years ago, and he's literally sitting there and he's resetting up his entire stage for going to the next segment. And he's doing this little scat routine. It's like, da, 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 da. He's just talking to himself. He's singing along while he's doing it, and had no idea he was doing it. It was probably one of the most genius improvised moments. And then the whole crowd, he turns around and realizes people are sitting there staring at him.
Right.
And the room just got so silent. It was amazing. Keith Urban, the first 2 times he came into town, and still to this day, if you've gone to see Keith Urban play in New Orleans, he gives us a shout out every time. Like, says, thank you very much for giving us a shot years ago. Probably the most talented guitarist I've ever seen, and we've seen quite a few.
That's awesome.
Casey Musgraves on my birthday. She sang me happy birthday in the den part of the world before she played in the main room, which was pretty awesome. I mean, I got her a bag of weed, so that probably
helped. There you go. That helps.
She does love some good marijuana. So, I mean, but it goes through like the Foo Fighters, Hoobastank, the Meters' very first like club show after having not performed together for a while. Was at the Wolf. They sat there and said, this is how much we're going to charge, and this is what it's going to be. And that, there's just all these magical moments that you really look at. You don't know what you're seeing until you actually get there.
Right.
Going back again to how important the live experience is, not just for the artist and the fan, but for the community, for all the different reasons why you need to go see more live music.
No, 100%.
And do it at an independent venue. And please, for the love of God, do not buy tickets from scalpers. We'll talk about that later. But
let's go ahead and get into the ticket stuff. So,
oh my God.
So my so just to give you a little bit of background, so my grandfather was in the ticketing business as well, but overseas. He owned a company called Keith Prowse. And bought the original London Queen's Theatre ticketing system in '91. And the system had been there since the Queen's Theatre, so it's been there a long time. But they bought it in '91. Andrew Lloyd, Andrew Lloyd Webber, he was a part owner in it. We were basically the largest ticketing company outside of Ticketmaster at that time. Because we sold everything in Europe. So we had all the soccer stadiums and all the theaters and Wimbledon and all this stuff overseas. But this was all before Ticketmaster and Live Nation decided to get together, which screwed everything. Because then now we're competing with the venue owner who owns the ticketing system. It changed the entire dynamics of the ticketing business.
Well, there's different levels to this. There's the Ticketmaster element and their domination of an industry, a monopoly. And right now there's an antitrust suit in the DOJ.
They're an agency, they're a ticketing company, and they're a venue owner. I don't understand how that was able to happen.
So that's one element of it that's going wrong, and it's costing. It's funny when you pay that $50 ticket and there's 1,000 people in a room. The artist doesn't get $50,000. Artist is lucky to get 15.
Right.
Because that money's not going where you think it's going.
Right.
And so, we need to do a lot to protect the fan through that element of it. And that's why, we did the Save Our Stages Act during the pandemic. It was a $16.25 billion arts bill, the largest in U.S. history, that saved independent venues, independent promoters, agents, movie theaters, Broadway, performing arts centers, nonprofits, and it had the least amount of fraud.
Right.
Like they just released the report. It was one of the best. And I was the precinct captain for Louisiana. I'm still the vice chair of advocacy for the National Independent Venue Association. That's how important it is to keep these independent venues going. Nothing against Ticketmaster, but they're hurting the industry, not helping it. You need these independent venues to be a part of every community.
100%.
And so that's one part of it. That part of the ticketing is, and that's an actual ticket. The second part is the scalpers. Some people call it the secondary market. Why don't we call a scalper a scalper? If you're standing in front of Tiger Stadium with a ticket to LSU, Alabama that you got for $50 because you're a student and you're now reselling it for $500, you're going to get arrested.
Right.
If you're standing in front of Tiger Stadium with a bag of cocaine, you're going to get arrested.
Right. You
try to sell that same bag of cocaine online, they're going to find you. And you're going to get arrested. They're going to go to Google. They're going to go to whoever's hosting. They're going to find you.
Right.
Because it's illegal. Why do we allow scalpers to do this online? It's illegal. And so that's been a big battle for a while now. And in recognizing how much it's hurting our culture bearers here, our musicians here, our performers here, and across the globe. And I'll give you a quick example. The Grammy-winning Hot 8 Brass Band has been playing my room for almost 14 years, every Sunday. It's one of the standard gigs, like a Rebirth on a Tuesday night or the Soul Rebels on a Thursday. And you go online right now, and that ticket's $20. You go to our site, Ticket Web, go right through the Howlin Wolf website, it's $20. Right now, they're listing these tickets on these scalper sites, StubHub, SeatGeek, Vivid Seats. I mean, Jambase is helping with this too, which is strange enough. The one that's not really a part. Well, let's go down the right this way, and they're selling it for $25, $30, $35. There was one literally for sale. It was like $800 for 2 tickets. I've got the screenshot. I literally have been setting up 8 a.m. in the morning shows to see if the bot would pick it up. By the way, they haven't bought these tickets.
Right.
They're selling something they don't own. It's like you don't own a house down the street, but you're going to try to sell it.
Right.
But don't worry, I'm going to buy it. I'll buy it someday, but you're going to have to buy it for me first. Huh? It's illegal. It's unfair. It's deceptive. And now think about it. If it's now a $40, $50 ticket, let's say you were going to go see the Hot 8. It's going to happen every Sunday, but somebody comes to town, you're going to send them there. Just like you would send them on a Tuesday or a Thursday, or you'd take a look at the, Live Wire or Offbeat. You'd say, this is what's going on. This is what you need to go see. If it's $50 a ticket, you're not going to go see some brass band you've never heard of.
Right.
Which means that money, and if somebody does do it, they get to us and they're upset with the band and they're upset with us because they paid more than they should have.
Right. It's bad marketing across the board.
And it's illegal.
Right.
So why don't we just call it what it is?
Well, but doesn't Ticketmaster own some of these?
No. Ticketmaster does not own StubHub. Ticketmaster does not own SeatGeek. Those are all wholly independent.
I thought Ticket Switch was...
Well, we can go down each and every one if you really want. And this has been a battle that we've been fighting. And so literally, this is a nationwide battle. And in fact, President Trump did the executive order with Kid Rock. I've got the picture on my phone.
Yep.
Probably the most bizarre outfit that's ever been in that room.
Yep, 100%.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's where we can protect.
At least he wasn't naked.
We can protect the fan. We can protect the fan. We can protect the performer. We can protect the venue. And that's literally where the battle is right now.
No, I agree. But I just feel like Ticketmaster has to be participating in it. Otherwise, they'd be advocating for us.
So here's part of the battle, and this is where we're going. So we got to have an opportunity to sit down. We had a bill in the Senate, SB 188, and of course the scalpers lied about what we were trying to do with it.
Right.
We don't want to take away, like right now there's a secondary marketplace for Saints tickets, but you sign a contract with the Saints when you buy those season tickets that says what you can and can't do with those tickets.
Right.
If you want to resell them, you have to do it through their marketplace.
Right.
And there's a lot of good reasons behind that. One, they generate income, but the other, there are safety angles. They can verify that seat is what it is.
Right.
And so I kind of actually agree with some of these. Because if you're a Major League Baseball team, let's say you're the Colorado Rockies, who could potentially be the worst team in the history of baseball,
right.
If their record keeps going the way it's going. But they have season ticket holders, and nobody wants to go see a team lose all the time. So you have the opportunity to get butts in those seats. You have people that buy concessions, they buy merchandise, they go through that process, and it's a better experience for everybody. More often than not, when it's like that, when a team is losing, you can get that $50 ticket for $15.
Right.
And that's a great argument to have. But why not just put a price cap on?
Right.
Why should you have to pay $5,000 for a $500 Taylor Swift ticket? Does that make any sense to you?
No,
that money's not going to Taylor Swift. That money's not going to the Dome. It's not going to the promoter, Louis Messina.
Nope.
It's money that leaves our city and our state. Let's be honest about that. And so that's really where the battle is right now. Please, if you're listening to this, tell everybody you know, don't buy a ticket unless you're buying it from the right place.
Right.
If you have any issues, heck, man, call me. I'll give you my number. But it's literally go to the venue's website. And that's one thing. It's deceptive URLs. It's literally selling a ticket you don't have.
Right.
And that was a big thing with the Oasis tour. They were they were selling tens of thousands of tickets on a market, and the tickets hadn't even gone on sale yet. They're just selling them.
They just sell
and then
them.
If they don't get them to you, well, you don't get a ticket.
Right.
So be it. And so it's,
I was in the car business for a long time, and it's like somebody taking pictures of your car and marketing it, but not having it on the site.
Same thing. That would be an unfair trade.
Yeah. People did it all the time, but it was it's definitely illegal.
So let's think about that and how it really dramatically impacts a band like Rebirth, a band like the Hot Eight, a band like Galactic, Trombone Shorty, the Revivalists.
Right, because it's not gonna affect a band that's selling out anyway.
Oh yeah, it does. Because what you're doing is, okay, I'll give you a kind of a good example of that. Let's say you're going to see Trombone Shorty in New York, and he's probably going to sell 2,000, 3,000 tickets. Tickets probably going to be about $70. And again, I'm just saying that's where the market is. But now that ticket's $210 or $250. And you get it because it's an amazing show. He's an incredible artist, incredible performer. But you may not go see him again, not realizing that's not what the ticket really costs.
Right. Okay.
So you're going to go see him once because it's awesome.
Right.
But you may not go see him again. And we've had those conversations again and again with fans, the same fans that help support the Save Our Stages Act, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant that help save these venues. Those are the ones, millions of them, that signed on and got Congress on board. And that's kind of the next steps, is figuring out how we get that done. And that battle's being fought in the states. Just because we got the bill pulled because they lied and said we were doing things we weren't going to do, doesn't mean we're not going to come back.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're not going to stop fighting and doing what we can to protect our culture.
No, 100%. No, and it's protection for the artist, but it's also a lot of protection for the consumer.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's the number one reason behind it.
Right.
As a venue, I don't make any more or less.
Right.
Does it bring less people in? I mean, there were venues in town during this last Jazz Fest where they had a no-show rate of 25%. So if you've got 1,000 tickets sold and 25% don't show up, you don't get and let's be clear, the majority of the guarantees in these independent venues, in particular in New Orleans, are going directly to the artist.
Absolutely.
The share that the venue makes is relatively minuscule compared to what a Live Nation would
They
take.
care more about the bar and concessions.
Right now, people are drinking less.
Right.
And if they're not there to drink or buy food or buy merchandise, that affects the venue. It affects everybody. And you think 1,000 people are showing, you've got extra staff on, you've got extra bartenders on, you've got extra security on.
Right.
You're doing all these things, and you're buying enough beer for 1,000 people. Now 1,000 people aren't there. Now it's 750 people. So those no shows, and that's the way the market's being manipulated. And people don't get it. They just want to see the show they want to see and think, all right, I'm going to go on StubHub or SeatGeek. Please don't do that. Please.
Yeah.
Because the money's not going where you think it's going. And it's not, I have nothing against somebody that can't find a babysitter and man, I got to get rid of these tickets because I can't go tonight or,
Right.
I'm not feeling well. That's not what over, 99% of it is. They're bots. Like I've seen pictures literally of the phones, literally hundreds of phones, iPhones connected to battle when tickets go on sale so they can control the market.
Oh, 100%.
So, the guy that buys it legitimately, no problem. But why not put a cap on that says you can do X amount? That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And that way the money's going where it should be going. Why not allow the artist to do that?
Well, let's not rip everybody off. That's the main part.
How can you sell something you don't have?
100%. But as musicians, we sell dreams all the time, right?
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the artist management side because that's part of it as well. You're protecting your artist on the management side by doing all that stuff. But what does it entail being a manager for the Revivalists?
That they were great guys. In fact, some of them actually were working at the Wolf while they were, first starting up. And we got the opportunity to put them on the road with Rebirth. Those first albums were, I give a huge shout out to Stu, who had been with the Wolf for many, many years and now has a comedy company called Laugh Life that we do a lot of shows at the Wolf with. He was the one that found him. I was dealing with everything else, and he's the one that said this band's going to go somewhere. And now they're one of the biggest bands to come out of New Orleans right now in the state of Louisiana. So, the day-to-day is very interesting. Everyone is very different. And we've done, managed and assisted different acts over the years, and everybody has different needs.
Right.
What Rebirth needs and what the Revivalist needs, or a Papa Grows Funk or a John Grow or a Dumpster Funk.
How do you pick a band to manage? Is it something they're like, because you have the venues, you hear a band, you're like, man, I really like them. I'm gonna pay attention, and then the next time they play, I start talking. Is it kind of like a natural progression, or?
Well, it's not something I woke up one day and said, "Hey,
I want to be a manager."
Let's be a manager." At the time, and I'll give Stu credit for this again too. He's like, Rebirth's looking for somebody to kind of help him out, and we started. And to this day, it'll be this spring will be 20 years.
Wow.
And I'm lucky to be a part of that family. They are the quintessential New Orleans brass band, and they even give due to the ones that predated them. The Dirty Dozen, and you can go down the list, and the ones that came after them. Like they all have an insane amount of respect for each other, but they just needed some help. No contract. If they want to end it tomorrow, they can end it tomorrow.
Right.
And the goal was to get them more money than what they were getting on their own. And the great thing about the Wolf stuff is. We have a network of independent venues across the country where we know people. There's Kathy at the Grog Shop in Cleveland. You can just go down the list of all these different places and promoters that have been a part of it forever and ever. Chris Cobb, who was at the Exit Inn, and he's no longer there, which sucks.
Right.
And then all these places where they get built, and you want to know where that next big act is going to come from. It starts at an independent venue, and so. We recognized that. We put them in and said, guys, you're going to want to have them here. And so we had Rebirth on the road for some of these shows. When we were helping Dumpster Funk, we had Rebirth Dumpster Funk play. Revivalists, we did kind of the same thing. And they were really, they created their own niche, and they got big to the point where there wasn't much, in part because of what we were talking about before. There really wasn't enough here to help us get them to that next level.
Right.
I think they're amazing. They're amazing musicians. And if anybody that's followed their career or been to their shows, they are what New Orleans is about and how you can grow and continue. Then you look at a band like Galactic, geez, like where they've come from and how they started and literally how they've evolved from, each album has its own, distinct thing to it. The last one that they just did with Irma, oh my God, it's amazing.
Right.
And so the management side itself isn't easy because each one has, again, very, very different needs. Some you're more involved than others. I was lucky I got a chance to be a part of a Grammy-winning disc.
Right.
Tracy Freeman did an amazing job, Rebirth in New Orleans. And I spent a year of my life literally figuring out how to get a Grammy, and they had just combined a bunch of categories together. And the regional roots category was we were the very first brass band to win a Grammy.
That's awesome.
So, it's a little bit of everything. It's trying to figure out how to get them the best flights, or, hey, that is, can we make enough money doing this run or that run? And it's more expensive than ever to travel.
Oh, 100%.
And you got to put 8 guys on a plane. And
right.
So, like we were talking about before, Outside Lands, we've got Rebirth going there. It's a tribute to one of the founders, Superfly, who had just passed away. And getting 8 guys in the morning, getting them up at 5 in the morning,
right.
getting them going. But I'm lucky. I get to do this. I've been, my kids and I talked about it a lot. And I get to go to work every day. I get to be a part of something really, really magical and really, really special.
Yeah, you never work a day in your life if you do what you love.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. That's awesome. Because I asked because it kind of I put myself in that position in a sense. I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything, but I had a band here because this is a studio. I've done live sound a lot. I've done events. I put together the No Limit reunion tour. Like I've done a lot of hip hop, but I've done live sound in LA for anybody from Bieber to Aerosmith to Pussycat Dolls, John Mayer, but here, building the studio, focused on my hours and less of the headaches of management and signing artists and all that stuff. Well, band comes in and books for a rehearsal in one of the spaces, and I'm doing other things, and I'm just listening to the play, rehearse, and I'm like, I really like these guys. Like, so next thing you start talking, you realize they're just kids. They have no idea what they're doing. They're playing, what they can, and don't have an album out yet, and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? Let's see what happens. Let's put it all together. Now I'm managing. Now I'm managing the band, and I did all the production, all the recording, and we just put out an album. And they're called More October. So they're kind of like an emo Deftones. They're I love them. But they all went to Christian Brothers.
Let's get them on the Wolf stage.
I'd love to, absolutely. It's funny how music, like I said, can grab you like that. It was something I said I was never going to do again, which was sign another act. Like I was focused on other things.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, it's a part of it. But I love doing live shows. Like I love, I was more on the promotion side for the bigger stuff, except for I guess toward the end of my live sound end, the studio side, I guess, where I found I fit more because I was a producer trying to put out albums and work with the songwriters and do things. That's really where my love was. But I love being backstage and that whole, moment before everybody gets on stage, and there's always these little rituals that the bands do. And, there's those are like moments that the public doesn't get to see. And those are special moments.
There's nothing like a sound check. We were on tour with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and to be there for sound check, to be there as a part of that, and amazing experience.
Yeah. It's like your own little private concert.
Great story behind it too, but watching the professionalism of them all.
Right.
I remember the first night we didn't. It was in Portland, and they had given us this tiny little room, and the tour manager came around. He's like, you guys can't fit in here. We're like, no, we're fine. He's like, no. If you're part of our family. And then that night, from then on, he made it his own thing. And this is a guy that's running his major tour with one of the biggest rock bands in the world.
Right.
And he made it a point to make sure that we were taken care of, because the second night they put us in the wrong space, and I got there just as he was getting there. And he's like, And he made sure every night that we got taken care of. Every night he's making sure that everybody's doing their thing. And it's amazing. Like that was the thing. The Foo Fighters. I remember this is a guy, their engineer at the time had run Ozfest,
right.
In stadiums. And I'm like, man, he's going to blow our PA up. And he came in and was super cool. Like, looked at our stuff, and he's like, man, this is, you got good stuff. We got a good Myers PA. Board's looking fine. He goes, we're going to make this work. And one of the top engineers in the world,
right,
is sitting there and made that PA sing. And so, yeah, you get to have all these great experiences, But like you said, it's the one. It's, Keith Urban, doing Def Leppard and AC/DC in sound check
Right.
on an acoustic.
Right.
And he's just messing around.
And he's messing around 100%.
And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's watching George Porter, lay down one note when everybody else is laying down 12.
Yep. No, so it's funny. One of my favorite shows that I did was at a place called Home in Beverly Hills, right off Rodeo. It's probably not there anymore. I haven't been to LA in a long time, but I did a show with Sheila E. and her father, and I didn't really know the family history and all that stuff, but it's a whole Cuban band, and her father's one of the best conga drummers ever. And during sound check, he's just like doing something he felt, and I mean, it was one of the best moments I've ever watched on stage. Like him and his daughter, like just having fun.
Yep.
And there was really nobody else for that moment. Like it's my own little special treat.
And that's why you go to a live show, because you never know where that next moment's going to be.
Right. 100%.
Doesn't make a difference what it is. Just go see live music.
100%. 100%. Well, so where is the future for the music business in New Orleans? Is it look bright?
Man, if I had a crystal ball, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think so goes New Orleans, so goes the country.
Right.
Arguably, Louisiana's biggest export is our culture.
Right.
And that's not just in New Orleans, not just in Lafayette, it's everywhere. There's this music that's just a part of our everyday. And so I think it needs to be a part of what a lot of people are doing, but it needs to keep moving forward. It has to come from city government. It has to come from places like New Orleans and Company, who are doing NOLA by NOLA.
Right.
Sid Greenbaum, dear friend, that, came up with that idea literally as they're canceling the Fall Jazz Fest because of COVID.
Right.
And they continue to invest more and more money and more dollars into recognizing how important our musicians are, how important our culture bearers are, how important our venues are. And there's a study that just came out. It's called The State of Live, that the National Independent Venue Association commissioned in all 50 states. And it literally it shows that to the GDP, independent venues are more important than gambling, more important than the beer industry. It's insane how more important than the airline industry.
Right.
Yet we're spending billions of dollars. There was a hospitality workforce development program in Cleveland. A good friend of mine, Sean, did there. And it literally talked about how there's, I want to say it's 12% manufacturing. They're investing millions of dollars in manufacturing. You have, Gund and all these other things that are there. But the hospitality industry is right about that number too, and they weren't investing anything. So we recognize that for every dollar spent in an independent venue, $12 to $15 goes back in the local economy in direct spending. It's literally one of the biggest economic bangs for the buck. And so as the next administration's coming in, no matter who it is, they need to hear that.
Right.
They need to understand that, instead of charging a permit fee to have live music, we should be incentivizing it like many other cities, states, and countries do all over the world. And it goes back to what you're talking about, where we have to have the right legal representation. We have to look at music as a business. It's a shame that a lot of these musicians were making money off the film industry, and it looks like that ship has sailed.
Yeah. Well, and it's not coming. And I'm on the board of Film Louisiana with Jason and those guys that own the Ranch Studios. And I mean, as much as everybody loves to talk positive, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but money's different right now than it used to be, and the system has left, and now there's like 40 out of the 50 states that are doing basically the same tax credits as we now re-implemented, and they've already moved all their production and they've got their people elsewhere, and there's no real incentive to come back here unless you want to be in New Orleans. And
I think there are ways we sweeten the pot,
right,
and not necessarily with the tax credits, but what we have here, and having a good business infrastructure is a big part of that. GNO Inc. is still, again, putting a lot of time, effort, and money into recognizing that that's something that we can fix.
Right.
But it requires a lot of effort, a lot of coordination, and that's just not something that New Orleans is good at sometimes.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
And so,
unless it's a Mardi Gras parade or a second line, we're not organized.
I will say this: the fact that they're listening, and remember, it's not just the music industry; it's all interplays. One night I was sitting with the CFO of the Link Group. He's a good friend, and we're sitting outside. We'd had a big show, and he was out, and we're just sitting there, and he gets a call from Pesh, or Kushan, which is right down the street, and they'd had a really busy night because we'd had a really busy night, and the guys literally, he had no idea we were there, and he's like,
right.
Man, we need to understand when they're going to be busy because we get busier when that happens. And the same thing with the hotels, like people are coming here. It's kind of like the Red Rocks effect. If you've ever gone to see a show at Red Rocks,
right.
It's one of those places you really want to see a band, even if you kind of like them.
Right.
And so, you go in, you fly, you spend a few days there. And I think the musical tourism aspect is a huge thing that we can continue to capitalize on. The fact that the city allowed us to create an Office of Nighttime Economy that I was the founding director of. I'm really proud of a lot of the programs that we started that are now coming to fruition. Helping with parking for, hospitality workers and for musicians, the Narcan Behind Every Bar program, the music census, all these things that are recognizing the value of what we do. And, that's where the next steps are, I think. And it unfortunately doesn't take place in a month or a year. Some of these changes are generational, but if we don't recognize that and give people an opportunity, the roots of music, if you know what that is, it was an after school program. It's a middle school citywide marching band. Derek
right.
Tabb, CNN Hero nominee, former drummer of Rebirth. He starts his program, and it's like there was an interview that took place after Katrina, and it was a reporter asking, "Hey, what's going to happen, to the music?" And they're like, "The music's not going to die." He goes, "What I worry about is opportunities for these kids. Are you going to pick up a gun and join a gang, or are you going to pick up a horn
right.
and join a band?" And it's just joining a band is there. We need to find better ways to incentivize that and get them paid. And it can't just be, well, then pay them more.
Right.
Well, the market doesn't do that.
Right.
But there are many different ways to do that. And that's, again, we can start going back to people like Don Pitts that have done the music census. And he's got, I think it's a book, 300 different ways to generate income, intellectual property. That's mailbox money.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people in this town that are doing that, but we need to get more to create, that core group that can get more dollars into those hands that can help protect the things that we love.
100%. Well, I'm on Reed Wick all the time about, why are we in the Memphis chapter? Getting our own Grammy chapter would help people take us seriously, I think. At least on the back end of music side, because I feel like I don't understand it. They can't really explain it to me, and but I'm a voting member, and Reed and I talk about it all the time. He's like, well, we're gonna keep working on it. We're gonna keep working on it,
and you've got to keep hitting your head against the wall until the wall starts moving.
Yeah,
and I think you asked me going all the way back where I think it is. I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I think, but there are all these things that are headwinds, and you joke about, not joke, the ticketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just yet another obstacle. And now every time, like I have to consider that every time I put Rebirth on the road. How much money are they losing?
Losing, right.
How much money is just some, average schmuck who's got a good bot. He wrote a good program.
Right.
Before the pandemic, it was, right about 25% of every ticket sold was done so on the scalpers market. I mean, that number's double then.
Right, yeah.
Because while all the venues were closed, hoping we could reopen and giving thanks for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, they were getting better at their craft.
Right.
And there's nothing right about that. Again, nothing against somebody making $1, nothing against somebody who does it honestly and fairly.
Yeah, but
when you're putting out deceptive URLs, when you're selling a ticket you haven't bought,
right?
Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what it is. It's illegal. It's immoral, and it's wrong.
Yeah, it's manipulating a gray market that they don't have anything structured for yet.
And they're making tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars as an industry.
Right.
And it's funny. Before that, StubHub was about to do an IPO. heading into, and then that executive order came out and they quietly pulled that IPO.
I wonder why.
and it's nice to see, and we're going to keep having conversations with the Attorney General here. We're going to keep having conversations with the Attorney General of the United States. This isn't a partisan issue. This has nothing to do with left or right. Doesn't make a difference who you voted for. No. This is an issue that affects every community. It affects, our cultural identity is tied into the musicians that play here and the stages that they play on.
100%.
Every other city wants to be New Orleans. I was on a panel somewhere, and there's a guy there from Nashville. We're Music City, USA, and there's another guy from Austin. We're the live music capital of the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we're New Orleans. We don't need a tagline.
You don't need a tagline, right? I don't need to say anything else.
You jackass. And, But it is who we are, and you're right. Yeah. We have to figure out better ways to monetize that. We have to have better ways to support those guys that are out there doing it every day.
Absolutely. No offense to Austin, but 6th Street is nothing but a bourbon replacement or
and
replica.
Not even a very good one.
And not even a good
one.
And
I love Austin.
But I love it too. I went to college for my little stint there, but it ain't the same. But anyway, well, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you being here today and talking and love what you do in the city, man. And you're a real staple here, so I appreciate everything.
I'm gonna stay here as long as they'll have me.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll say it right now. You are a real New Orleanian right there.
I appreciate that.
You're accepted. But any big shows at the Wolf you want to plug?
It seems like it's something new and different every day. We just had up Montreal. They did an amazing show a few weeks back, the 20th anniversary of an album that they first played on our stage when he came in on a white horse, which was awesome. We're doing a ton of comedy stuff. Every week, every month is something new. The fact, again, I get to go to work every day.
That's awesome.
And I'm really excited. We've got a town hall with Beto O'Rourke today as part of a progressive conference that's taking place in the city. It's, people, anything that gets people excited. I think, I was in a meeting. It was one of these neighborhood meetings, and I've been doing those forever and ever. And when I was in the mayor's office, I would go and, it'd be the French Quarter Business Association or whatever. And everybody was very, there was a negativity surrounding it. And I really like seeing where the direction is now, because the meetings, especially in the past couple of weeks, have been centered on, whether you're voting for Oliver Thomas or Helena Moreno or Royce Duplessis or whoever you're supporting, there seems to be a sense of optimism that I haven't really seen in the city in a while. People aren't really bitching and moaning. And so, I don't think it's about left
getting
or right.
rid of the current situation we're in, I think is what everybody's happy about.
I'm not gonna dog the old boss. I really, she had such a great grasp on things. And I'm appreciative for a lot of the things that she supported. She did a lot of really good things that people don't realize.
Right.
And I wish we communicated that better. But to see those changes taking place, people be excited about, who's running and what's happening.
Right.
To see the people like JP again and Leslie Harris again. This is a city that, we determine our own destiny. And if we decide that we want this to be a positive experiment and, in governance,
right,
300 years plus on, then I think that's in our hands. And
but you get the energy you put in it, you get it out. So
absolutely.
If we can put positive energy in it, maybe we'll get something positive out of it.
And that's what we're about. Let's figure out ways to make things go forward positively. I'm the eternal optimist. You can smack me around, and you're not gonna smack that smile off my face.
Awesome, man, awesome. Well, great. Well, thanks again for coming, and thank you guys for listening today. If you'd like to see more, see you guys again.